Huh? Why do I have to live with your mom? Don't inconvenience me. Please, my mom has breast cancer, and I want to take care of her. I'll make sure not to inconvenience you. You're so audacious. If you're so concerned, why don't you put her in a facility? Despite my desperate plea, my mother-in-law and husband flatly refused. I don't have a father. I've been living alone with my mother since I was a child, and she raised me with so much love. I just wanted to repay her by taking care of her in her final days. I was thinking that way. Even after all I've said, are you still going to say that you want to live with her? Okay. You can forget about it. I felt deeply disheartened. He didn't have to strongly refuse like this. In the end, I couldn't spend time with my mother during her last moments, and she passed away. A year has passed since then. One day, my husband informed me that my mother-in-law had breast cancer. I decided to look after my mom in this house, so you better take care of her, all right? Is he serious? I couldn't believe my ears at my husband's statement. Even though he told me not to inconvenience him when my mom had breast cancer, does he think he can say that to me now? Furious, I turned to my husband and said, "Just do as you please." Why would I take care of my mother-in-law? I will never forgive my mother-in-law or husband. My name is Lucille. I'm currently 45 years old, and I've been supporting our household as a housewife since I got married to my husband, Adriel. I wanted children, but despite undergoing infertility treatments, we were never blessed with any. Well, don't be so down. It's unfortunate that we can't have children, but as long as I can live with you, that's more than enough for me. I can't express how much these words saved me. There were times when I kept blaming myself and felt desperate. Thanks to my kind husband, we haven't had any major fights, and we've come this far. However, my relationship with my mother-in-law isn't great. I still remember what she said when we went to visit my in-laws before we got married. 20 years ago, when we decided to get married, I nervously went to my parents' in-laws' house with my husband to greet them. "You're the one Adriel is going to marry? You look kind of plain. And nice to meet you. So, what do your parents do?" "My father passed away when I was 2 years old due to lung cancer. My mother works as an office clerk in a factory." As I said this, my mother-in-law suddenly started clapping and laughing. "So, that's why you give off this aura of being poor." She had no idea about the hardships we had faced. True, my family was by no means wealthy. Nevertheless, my mother worked tirelessly to raise me to this point, and yet I was so frustrated and on the verge of tears, but my husband stood up for me. "Mom, don't say such things. I don't have a father either, right? Thanks to the money Dad earned while he was alive, we've had a relatively comfortable life. And don't be rude to the woman who's going to be my wife. Who do you think you are, talking to me like that?" "Well, fine. Marry whoever you want." My mother-in-law grumbled with dissatisfaction. Since then, I've been uncomfortable with her and I've tried to avoid getting involved with her as much as possible. If my mom says anything strange again, I'll talk to her sternly, so don't worry. I found him reassuring and dependable. His kindness didn't change after we got married. He had always been there for me, but after a recent event, his attitude changed drastically. "I'm going to visit my mom's house to check on her." "Okay, take care on your way." I sent a message to my husband and went to my family home after a long time. I think it had been 6 months. I wondered if she was doing well. I'm home. While cheerfully saying that, I entered the house, but there was no response from my mother. That was unusual. She usually responded, louder than me. Puzzled, I entered the living room and found my mother sitting on the sofa looking downcast. Oh! Lucille, you are here. What's wrong, Mom? You seem a bit down. Is something bothering you? Lately, I haven't been feeling well. I don't know if I'm just suffering from summer fatigue, but I haven't been able to eat much. The season was summer, and there had been a record-breaking heat wave. It wasn't surprising that she might be suffering from heat exhaustion. But still, my mother looks terribly thin. Worried, I persuaded her to go to the hospital. You don't need to make such a fuss. It's just heat exhaustion. It's okay. Dad said the same thing at first, and didn't go to the hospital. And that's why his illness became serious. We had this conversation in the car. On our way to the hospital. I thought it would be great if there was nothing wrong. But please listen carefully. Unfortunately, the cause of her poor health is probably breast cancer. It has progressed to the point where there's probably nothing we can do. I think she has about a year to live. After she underwent various tests, I was called in by the doctor and entered the examination room by myself. That's when I was told that my mother had breast cancer. What? Breast cancer? About a year to live? What does that mean? My mind went completely blank. What would you like to do? There's an option for her to stay in the hospice care ward. I'm sorry. Please give me a moment to think. I don't remember how I managed to get home from there. When I realized it, I was back in the house I shared with my husband. That's how shocking this whole situation was. Oh, you're finally home. Welcome back. What's wrong? You look so gloomy. Apparently, my mother-in-law had come to visit while I was gone. Under normal circumstances, I would have entertained her, but I didn't have the capacity for that. When I saw my husband, who had approached me with a concerned look on his face, I couldn't help but burst into tears. My mom! She seemed unwell today, so I took her to the hospital. Then, they found breast cancer, and they said, there's nothing they can do. I told my husband about my mother's cancer diagnosis and the prognosis. They told me that she could stay in the hospice care ward, but I want to be there for her in her final moments. Can she live here with us? I knew my husband had a kind heart. He would understand, right? I felt apologetic, but I had assumed that he would agree. What? Why do I have to live with your mom? It's going to be a hassle. The response from my husband was unexpected. To say it would be a hassle. Please don't say that. Please. I'll take care of everything, and I will make sure that we won't inconvenience you. Even though I pleaded desperately, my husband's answer remained unchanged. Moreover, he even said this. She only has a year to live, right? In that case, it's better to have her taken care of at the hospital. Besides, if we decide to take care of your mom here, it would cost a lot of money, including making it wheelchair accessible and such. You don't earn any money, so you'd be already putting a burden on me with that. Do you understand that? I never thought my husband was such an unreasonable person. To weigh life against money like this. But I couldn't back down. If it's just about money, I will find a job that I can work remotely. Oh my, that's why poor people like you, my mother-in-law, cut me off. Seriously, you're so audacious. Let me make it clear. You say you can easily earn money by working from home, but if you can only make a meager amount each month, It's completely pointless, you know? Besides, you'll neglect your household duties. While Adrielle works hard to earn a living, you'll be doing nothing but taking care of your mother and working from home. Isn't that unfair to Adrielle? Did you think about this before you said that? Well, And another thing. I've always disliked your mother. She wears shabby clothes, like a true pauper. If someone like that is around, when I visit this house, I won't like it. That's right. I don't want to come home tired, to a house where a sick person lives. So, we won't be living together. Even my husband outright rejected the idea. I couldn't give up, and I still tried to convince my husband, but before I could speak, I was interrupted. Even after all we've said, you still want to say more? If you want to take care of her so badly, then divorce me first. No, please forget about living together. The moment this word was thrown at me, I gave up on the idea of living with my mother. As a full-time homemaker, I didn't have much savings, and I thought it would be impossible for me to take care of my mother on my own. A week later, I went to my parents' house and told my mother that we couldn't live together. I'm sorry, Mom. I asked Adrielle if we could live together, but he refused. It's okay, don't worry about it. I appreciate that you even considered it. In the end, my mother stayed in the hospice care ward. Since we couldn't live together, I visited her almost every day. As I watched my mother weaken day by day, I felt anger towards my husband and mother-in-law, along with regret for not being able to live with her. I understood their reluctance to live together, but insulting my family like that was unforgivable. About a year later. Mom! Mom! Lucille! Get along well with Adrielle, okay? With me by her side, my mother embarked on her journey to heaven. The sorrow of losing my beloved mother was immeasurable. If only I had pleaded more with my husband back then. If only I had lived with my mother, even over his objections. Thinking that, I was filled with an unbearable sense of regret. My mom has just passed away. Oh, I see. I called my husband to tell him about my mother's death, but he hung up the phone with just a simple reply like that. He didn't even come to the hospital either. So, while engulfed in grief, I returned to my parents' house with my mother's body. Why do I have to attend the funeral of such a person? Just be quiet. It can't be helped. She's our in-law. My husband and mother-in-law, of course, attended my mother's funeral, but they seemed bored throughout. I could hear them whispering to each other, and I felt my anger welling up to the point where I was about to scream right there. All right. I've made up my mind. I don't care about them anymore. I will never forgive them. During the funeral, I vowed that I would definitely get revenge on them. After my mother's death, I started working part-time at a nearby supermarket. I did it so that I can eventually live alone. I'll save up and definitely leave that house behind. With that determination, I continued working part-time almost every day and managed to save a considerable amount. With this much saved up, a year after my mother's death, I was waiting for the right moment to finally ask my husband for a divorce. Then, one day, I think I should let you know this, but I thought he had nothing to say to me after all these years, but I calmly asked, What? What's wrong? Well, you see, my mom has been diagnosed with breast cancer. They said she has about a year to live. I never expected something like that to happen. I couldn't believe that my mother-in-law now has breast cancer, of which my mother died. Honestly, I was surprised, but so what? I see. It's the same as my mom. Right, and because of that, I've decided to look after my mom in this house. I have work, so would you be willing to take care of her? Is he serious? When my mother was sick, he refused to let her live with us, but now that his mother is sick, he decides without discussing with me? That's unacceptable. I remembered how my mother was treated, so I firmly rejected living together with my mother-in-law. Living together in this house? No way. No way. Come on, she is your mother-in-law. Besides, you only work part-time, so you can easily take care of her, right? When I asked you if my mom can live with us, you both rejected it. I'll give you exactly the same answer as you gave me at that time. She won't last a year anyway, right? So, she should stay in a facility or a hospital. Besides, I'm busy with my part-time job, so I can't take care of her. My objection made my husband's face turn red. Hey! How can you say like that? Oh, come on. This is what you guys did to my mother. If you want to live together and take care of her, go ahead, but do it on your own. Do. You think you can say that to me? Asterisk side asterisk. I can't live with someone like you anymore. I'll divorce you. I didn't miss my husband's statement. I had been planning to bring it up myself, but this worked out perfectly. It saved me the trouble. Oh, I see. Understood. Hey, where do you think you're going? We are not done talking yet. Don't worry. I'm not running or hiding. Just wait a bit. I temporarily left the living room and brought the divorce papers from my room. We're getting a divorce, right? So, sign this. What is this? What do you mean? It's obvious. It's the divorce papers. I already signed the papers. As for my husband, he probably never thought that I would agree to divorce. He looked quite panicked. Are you serious? If you divorce me, you won't be able to survive, will you? You don't have much income, and if you just take care of my mother, I'll support you. What are you talking about? You're the one who brought up the divorce. Do you think I would ask you to sign the divorce papers as a joke? Of course, I'm serious. Besides, I can live without you. Why do you think I've been working part-time? I've wanted a divorce since the time you guys treated my mother so badly. But I had no savings and I thought life would be tough, so I endured it. I'm grateful that you brought up the divorce. My husband froze in silence, as if he had no words to reply. My husband is not the same person who used to be so nice to me. Even though my mother wished for us to get along at her final moment, that's no longer possible. You don't say anything, so that means you're okay with the divorce, right? Quickly sign the divorce papers. I don't need any alimony. I think you'll need the money for your mom's medical expenses. Okay, I understand. I'll sign. But are you sure about this? I said it's fine, didn't I? I unintentionally raised my voice. No matter what he says, I can't live with him anymore. My husband seemed surprised by my outburst and hastily signed the divorce papers. Is this okay? Yes, thank you. I'll take these to the town hall myself. I'll be leaving this house tomorrow, okay? The next day, as I had informed my husband, I packed my belongings and prepared to leave the house. Well then, thank you for everything. Good luck taking care of your mother. Do your best, I sarcastically told my husband, and I was about to leave the house. My husband had an indescribable expression on his face, glaring at me intently. Humph. Serves him right. Oh, by the way, there's something I forgot to mention. What is it? I want to make it clear that I will never forgive you and your mother for the rest of my life. Also, can you tell your mother that she used to dislike my mother, calling her a poor person or whatever, but I disliked her even more. With that, I had nothing left to say. After I left the house, I started walking towards my parents' home. Along the way, I stopped by the town hall and made sure to submit the divorce papers. I'm back. I returned to my empty childhood home and reported my divorce to my mother's portrait. Of course, there was no response, but I felt like my mother was saying, "Well done. From now on, I'll always be with you." To be honest, I had thought about demolishing my childhood home when my mother passed away. However, from now on, I'm going to protect this house. Nevertheless, I never knew that the true nature of those two was like that. I should have divorced him much sooner. I was lounging in the living room of my childhood home, sipping coffee and absent-mindedly murmuring such complaints to myself. 6 months later, I changed my job and started working at the factory where my mother used to work. I was warmly welcomed by the factory employees just because I was my mother's daughter. "Oh, you're her daughter. Your mother used to be a great help to us." I often heard such comments. My mother seemed to be liked by everyone, and as her daughter, I couldn't help but feel proud. One day, as I was getting used to my job, I had a day off. While I was relaxing at home, my phone rang. Ha! It's a text message. I wondered who it was from. I checked my phone and realized it was a message from my ex-husband. The message said, "My mom passed away recently. Since then, I tried to take care of her at home, but it was impossible. I had to take a lot of time off work, and it was really tough. In the end, she spent her last moments in hospice care. After she passed away, I finally understood how you felt. She only has 1 more year to live, so it doesn't matter. I'm sorry for saying things like that back then. I now regret for not letting her live with us so you could be with her. I don't expect you to forgive me now, but if it's possible, I'd like to start over with you." I will never start over with him. Even he knows. Regretting now won't bring our parents back to life. He should just live the rest of his life with regrets. I didn't bother to reply and deleted the message. I also blocked his number. I hope he doesn't bother me anymore, since I'm starting my second life.